So what's your involvement with all of this then, John?
River Pilot.
River Pilot?
Oh, was you?
From 64, getting dragged out of bed by my father at the middle of the night. He was a dock and harbour pilot and a boatman in the docks, but river pilot on the hull.
Oh, I didn't know he
So
was
I-
interested in...
Oh,
well, we always went down Sparby, weren't we?
Absolutely. Well, it was all the thing from. I started, as I say, 15-year-old, which I didn't take very kindly to, but you like to stay in bed when you're 15, but get up.
Yeah. Oh.
And then I used to
Stay in bed.
just
What's that?
listen to what he was saying as we were backing up the river and pick his brains
That's
a bit
right, yeah.
before he had a few, which they all did in them days, of course.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get familiar with it all.
You lived near Broadheads, didn't you?
Yes.
On the river bank there.
Yeah, right next to the drain.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So we were right near the old harbour, River Hull, living Hodgson Street.
Right.
So North Bridge, between North and Drypool, was the main swap over area with the Humber pilots and the Mudmen. There was my father and there was a chap called Tom Berry.
Tommy Berry, I remember him.
Tom had his lad who's my age, who helped his dad, and so it's a family thing.
Yeah.
Going back before then, it was the Drapers. I don't know if you've heard of the Drapers.
Yeah,
They were the scrap.
Scrapper, I remember
Yeah, well, it was
Albert Draper?
Albert.
Well, it wasn't him. It was
a
a
scrap
guy
match.
called. My grandmother said they called him Cornelius George Draper. He was the initial dock and harbour pilot, and he lived on Holborn Mount, which was
Holborn
opposite
Mount,
where we lived.
Yeah, Holborn Mount.
Big houses.
I was
there.
down there the other day.
And he had a brass plaque on his front door that said, I don't know where that went, but it was. I remember it as a young fella being on the door. And then my grandfather helped him tie the ships up and stuff on the river and in the docks. And then he finished it, Mr. Draper. But my grandfather, I don't think he actually did the piloting.
No.
He didn't get to that level. But my father, when he came out of the Navy after the war, he was an engineer. And my grandfather passed away in, I think, 46 or 47. And my father swapped careers. But he had to pick it up himself because he hadn't had like I had him. He didn't have anybody,
right.
So but he had the naval background, which helps, because he'd been in the war for 6 years, and then he became a River Hull pilot full time and dock boatman and stuff. And as I say, then in the 60s, yours truly came up through the ranks, as it were.
Press gang.
Well, I was. I mean, I didn't want to say that, but you didn't really have a choice. It was a case of come on, we get up.
We all still meet on Christmas Eve day.
You don't, do you?
Yeah, Stevie, Broadhead.
Oh, bloody heck.
Two Swapmans, Dave Lyons, Dennis and Paddy, Dave Lyons, Mick Stevie.
Reggie Jackson?
No, he don't come.
Oh, Reg.
I see him now and then.
Yeah.
But Go Brown, remember him? Gordon, all them. Yeah, we all meet.
Yeah, and it was, as I said to Lou, it was...
Do you remember this? Do you remember when they called me Killer?
Oh, crikey, yeah, of course, Killer. Our girl met you not that long ago, didn't she?
Exactly.
Because she reminded you of that tenner that you let.
10 pence.
No, but it was the community was all centred around that area of near North Bridge, wasn't it? It was, and of course, there was a drain where North Bridge is, it still is. There was our drain, wasn't there? And we used to fish in that drain.
Yeah. He said he did, yeah.
Did you used to fish there?
I've never.
But then you'd hear the bells go for North Bridge.
That's
and
right,
then you'd see the bridge go up, and then the coasters. And as I said to that young fella, in the 60s and 70s, and maybe up to early 80s, that river was incredibly busy.
Oh, yeah.
I think at one point, collectively, there was over 300 movements.
You could nearly walk across on barges.
You could on the
weekend.
they were everywhere.
They had to leave the gap.
50 foot up to North Bridge, but sometimes it wasn't. You had to physically move them out the way. Because as I said, because the ships used to come in long before Mountain Bridge. The coasters would come in past the pier on a 45-degree slant because Sammy's Point was covered in mud. You could go around there very easily, which one or two did, because them Humber pilots were not big fans of our place. They're like the docks, and they didn't like scrambling
Too
on
easy,
the barges
too hard, wasn't it? Too
in the
hard
rain
for
and
them.
ice and
Yeah.
stuff, in case they slipped and fell in, which I did once, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Then you'd cut across at 45 degrees towards where the deep is now.
Yeah.
Then you'd go where Mighton is now. There was on the starboard side, on the east side, the dock side, Victoria, there was a big warehouse. It was called Humber Creek. It was John Goods.
John
Right
Goods,
to the
yeah,
corner.
yeah. Well,
So
yeah.
what they did, and then you dropped your
John
starboard
Goods.
anchor and spun round to starboard to swing round if you had the room, as he said, with the barges.
Well, there was barges as well,
Yeah,
wasn't there?
and then
John
you'd back
Goods.
up through the gap that was left to where Ranks Mill was, which was Drypool Bridge. The harbour master's office was on the west side, and
That's
then
right.
you'd swap over with the guy with his white shirt and his tie and his been to sea for 50 years, and we hadn't, but we had the local knowledge. That's what it's, and then we'd back them up as far as Stone Ferry. As far as Stone Ferry, or it was ever so busy. It was just thriving. It was. You were called a mud pilot.
Yeah, that's that
because
phrase,
you were
it was-
uncertificated in the likes of going to sea
Right.
and sitting exams, and it was. There's lots of creeks all over the country, but you were local knowledge. You knew the river. You knew
Yeah, it was
where the mud was.
hard river, wasn't
You
it?
knew the depths for the
Shifted.
berths for the different tides, and then you were given the job based on your local knowledge. Because if it's a new ship, they didn't know where they were going, and you had that local, and it was a pass down from father to son. But they said, you guys will be the last guys.
Right.
If there's a future generation, which there wasn't there?
No,
'Cause
no,
it
probably-
finished. Say if I'd have had a lad who wanted to do follow on like I did from father, it wouldn't have been a case of, well lad, this is what you do. So one of the last things my father said to me in Hull Royal was, because he knew I was going to continue when required, he said, I'll be stood on the west side of Scott Street Bridge.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll be watching you come round there. So every time after he'd gone, I always remember, things stay in your mind.
Yeah.
And I'd be coming round that bend, I'd have put a few kicks ahead to get you round what I've just said. And then as I passed the bridgeman, when it was working, I'd think, good morning, father. I never saw him though.
I've done
I never
it.
saw him, but he said, I'll be there watching you.
I was
It's
hardest.
just
It was
one-
hardest.
it's just
Keep
one
you
of
on your
them-
toes,
It's just
Yeah.
one of them things.
Yeah,
But it
it
was an important part of a lot of people's lives.
It was.
But I remember once, I said to a captain, we dropped the starboard anchor, and he said, well, no, I don't want to. I said, well, keep what I've just said, when you come around the
Stops you
bends, if
pushing.
there's a strong flood tide.
We've done it on barges, we've done
And he
we've had
said,
to
no,
do it.
I'm all right, Mr. Powell. I said, fair enough, sir. You know what I'm going to say next, don't you? We came round one of the bends, the tide caught out of the port of the starboard bow, whipped it right round into a warehouse. We were stuck right across the river, and I said, what? He said, what do we do now? And I said, well, it was your choice,
Bit
sir.
late now, isn't it?
No, well, it is. It's pilot's advice, captain's orders.
That's
They
right,
can tell you to sit down and
It's
shut up.
It's basically their boat.
It's their boat,
Yeah,
you're there to
captain.
advise, but they're employing you for your local knowledge.
Yeah.
And if they want to disregard that, that's their choice. But I bet he wished he hadn't, because we were stuck.
Yeah.
In fact, we nearly missed the tide, and he smashed some of his.